Everybody, we're back. I'm Dante. For those that don't know, I also go by the name of Mecca Don, the Don Mecca. Some may even call me Don. Some may even call me Tay. What up, Tay? What up, Tay? What up, Don? And also during this time of the year, which may be short for some, I go by Coach and also Ref. But again, if you know, you do know. You guys know what it is. We're in the age of cancel culture, judged by the court of public opinion. And I'll be careful with my words, but just in case I drop one, right? You know, if I drop a noun, an adjective, a pronoun, or even an expletive, don't hold me to it. You guys know what it is. Say it with me. I'm just here to pod. In true heDONizm fashion, you guys know I'm always grateful for you, and that's always my lead into my gratitude. But I am so happy today. Why? Because the SAG-AFTRA have finally reached an agreement for a deal. What am I talking about? As of Friday, November the 10th, the SAG-AFTRA board, after almost 120 days, I believe it was 118, but nearly 120 days, Hollywood studios will be back at work, and we've reached a deal. This deal ended that long walkout that could have had us in a deep drought going into the 2024 entertainment season. So you guys may be asking, what was in the deal? Well, let me just tell you, it was a value deal that was more or right at $1 billion, and that's billion with a B. Additional compensation for streaming shows. You remember that was an issue. Shows were being streamed and no one was being compensated for those shows. As any corporation, as any industry, as any field of work, we got to go up. Times are changing. So the minimum wage increasing totaling 11%, right? And AI protections. I told you last pod, I had no idea they was going to reach this agreement by this pod. But as of last pod, I told you guys about how Tom Hanks' name, image, and likeness was created for a dental ad. Well, here's the AI protections. Actions that include AI protections will give those of the Actors Guild, okay, and anyone in front of the camera for name, image, and likeness. Not only will they be informed, okay, but they will be compensated for any digital replica for their work. Now we can get down to the get down, right? So this backlog that I told you guys was getting very dry can now be fluid. They can get back in the creator's bag, even those behind the scenes, which is a lot of the heavy lifting for the strike, can now get back to work. As you know, some of your nighttime TV, SNL, they never disappoint, are back at work. But I'm talking about your Abbott Elementaries. I'm talking about your Tyler Perry Studios can start their engines back up and get back to work. Even of what I told you guys about in the last pod, I loved Reasonable Doubt season 1. Hopefully, prayerfully, fingers crossed, that we can get a season 2 of Reasonable Doubt. But here's what I'm excited for, because I thought they was going to can the whole production, the whole gamut of what we have being the Gladiator 2, right? You remember 1 with Russell Crowe? Well, there's works of a Gladiator 2. Guess who's going to be starring in Gladiator 2? Ha, 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 ha. Sorry if I'm not imitating that laugh correctly, but it's none other than Mr. Mo Better Blues himself. Denzel Washington will be starring in Gladiator 2. Now, Saturday Night Live went back to work, and let me just refresh you guys on a little poly talk, right? So last Wednesday, they did have the GOP debate for Republican. The Republican debate was held in Miami last Wednesday, right? They were going at it. It's so much that someone's daughters were mentioned when it came to TikTok, right, by Vivek. But nonetheless, you know who wasn't there, or Don Teasy wasn't there, right? And I think he's using this to his advantage for the rollout for his presidency. Well, Saturday Night Live took the skit of that and they bodied it as per usual. In the past pods, I spoke to you guys about Pinky Doll. Do you guys remember me talking about Pinky Doll, the NPC And if I can just do a quick refresh, NPC is non-player character, right? And she's a social, Pinky Doll is a social media celebrity that has catchphrases like yes, 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 yes. So if you hear your children or your peers or your colleagues going yes, 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 they're taking that bit from Pinky Doll's catchphrase that she does on social media, that being TikTok. Now, she does set reactions for every kind of token or digital payment that her followers give while she's streaming live. She earns money every time you hear the catchphrase, ice cream so good, ice cream so good. I don't want to imitate it. It probably sounds ridiculous coming from me, but nonetheless, I'm talking about a particular space. Rock with me, if you will. In a world filled with creativity and creative content, in a day where teenagers, adolescents, and young adults, and even adults in general, are finding it hard to even go out to a party, to a kickback, to an event, to someone's house, to a private party without those few bad apples that shows up and just ruin and stink up the joint, right? Recently in Chicago, during the Halloween period, right, there was a costume party and there were set rules in place. You're not coming in unless you're dressed, or you're not coming in unless you're coming with good vibes only. You guys know what it is, right? So you have this one individual, for whatever reason that may have been, this cat decided to leave the party. Came back and is like, oh, okay, let me get back. The bouncers is like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. We got a policy and we got to enforce that. You're not getting back into this joint. So the guy go, excuse me? The bouncers folded up and was like, and I'm animating this for the dramatic effect, but it went to some degree of what I'm saying. The bouncers folded up and was like, we're not letting you in. We got a strict policy that says no re-entry. You guys know wherever you go in an entertainment realm today that you're not getting back in if you leave the joint. So this guy leaves, comes up to the bouncers. The bouncer's like, no. So the guy's like, I bet. He goes to the car. You guys remember the Young Bloods, and I ain't selfish. I will let you and your folks get it. He comes back to the party, gets into it with the bouncer, and comes up in there with some heat. Not just some heat. He comes up in the joint with an automatic weapon. I'm going to show all of you. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. He let off 14 hot ones in a party, not at anybody. I could see if he would have said, hey, yo, bouncer, give me a fair one. And they put them things up and used them old schools. Nah, he came in with an automatic weapon and let off 14 hot ones. Not loving that. I'm not loving that at all. When we are talking about mass shootings, when we are talking about individuals that don't identify with Black and African American, but yet you take your whack back up in the party with an assault weapon and you just spray off 14 hot ones randomly. So the end results of this, for those that may be wondering, there were no fatalities. Thank God. There were no fatalities, but yet we had a dodo to come up in there and just spray randomly and hit 14 different people. I'll say it again, as of today, there has not been reported any fatalities from this situation, from this negligence. But some people were seriously injured. And I'm talking about our ability to go out and have a good time, good vibes, leave the joint and go, you know what? I really enjoyed myself. The costume added to it. People were really in the character. But now you got this bad apple that comes in there and ruins the joint, right? So what am I saying, right? Most adolescents today, outside of the adults and those who know how to act, right? Those that know how to act, right? That's why you got to question sometimes those plus ones that come up in there that you don't know, because you don't know what type of mindset they have. But some of our youth today and our adolescents are now hanging out, in parking lots, at gas stations, at abandoned buildings, and even check your non-residents cul-de-sacs. Just look on the pavement, you'll see black marks. These guys are taking their whips and sliding them. What am I talking about? They're doing donuts. They're putting it on the gram. They're going live. They're putting it on TikTok. They're doing whatever they feel can be entertaining for them, although we may see it as unlawful, or we may see it as stupidity, or we may see it as careless and recklessness or reckless behavior, whereas some of these people are trying to find a way to get outside. Go find entertainment. Go find something to do and a place to do it. Most businesses are even supporting these meetups with the muscle whips and also the custom whips. Simply put, there's no place for a lot of our young adults and teenagers and even adolescents to go and kick it. This is nothing new, but let me share a little positivity on some of these options for our youth to be able to go and do. Have you heard about the BLERDs? Let me say it slow. The BLERDs, right? The BLERDs. And if you don't know what that is compound from, it is the black nerds, the BLERDs. More specifically, those that love anime, video games, characters, sports, NPCs. I've already told you about your Pinky Dolls, board games, and this is just to name a few, right? But there is a thing, right? An authentic thing. We've talked about these places to go. We've talked about being behind the screens of social media, heads down, in the house, in the rooms, without getting outside. Well, let me tell you about this thing. DREAMcon is an anime and gaming convention that started as a dream. You guys think about the derivatives of hip hop, right? Not that the word dream came out of hip hop, but think about what Biggie Small says as it pertained to Rappin' Duke. Remember Rappin' Duke, daha. You never thought the hip hop would take it this far. You guys will hear me say that so often, because often in hip hop and in lyrics, you can find that prophetic word inside the bop. But DREAMcon is a place and an event that is set up, and I'll even add this just from my own understanding. It's an experience that's set up and brought to fruition by social media influencers and also the followers. Let me do a little bit more of a dive into it so you guys can follow what I'm putting down. Some of the endless entertainment to some of these conventions include educational panels, STEM, STEAM, and now STREAM, All-Star Super Smash Brothers tournaments, cosplay contest and runway, dodgeball, basketball, crew battles, ciphers, role-playing, and I would just say the show and the interaction of meeting and greeting, because from what I've heard and talked to a few people, that is the most important part. And some may know them as the RDC World with almost 6.2 million subscribers. Shout out to Jonathan Newton and Mark Phillips. They are the co-founders of DREAMcon, and they were recently named to Forbes magazine's 30 Under 30. These are young black men. Why am I giving them props? With only 5 years up and running, they started with their first invite that only gained near 6,000 people in attendance. As of DREAMcon 2023, they went up to almost 25,000 people in attendance. Your largest football stadium will possibly hold somewhere at a maximum of 70 and maybe even 75. In the college rim, oh, you're way up in the hundreds. You're way up in the 90s and the hundreds. For those that really bring them in, your Alabamas, your Georgias, your UCLAs, those big, well, I don't know about UCLA. But anyway, some of your bigger stadiums kind of bring that. And your basketball stadiums probably average somewhere around 20, anywhere between 15 and 25,000 on a packed night, but they brought in close to 25,000 in the DREAMcon 2023. The inclusivity and the diversity and the unity that DREAMcon fosters is unparalleled. It gives you Black family reunion vibes. You guys have heard me say this about two young individuals. So I'm saying to you young guys already, when young people win, at some point we got to listen, we got to invest, and more importantly, we have to support. But I'll say it again. Yes, these are Black founders and owners of the brand, but it's not just limited. Let me say this real clear. They are Black owners of the brand, but it's not just limited to Black people. One thing about the Black community is it fosters inclusivity and diversity, unlike some of the others. DREAMcon tears the roof off of those stereotypes, but don't be alarmed if you see all minority as the majority there. It's a beautiful thing. For the older folks, hold up. I got something for you that may be able to help you guys to understand this just a little bit better or to relate. Most teens and adolescents that don't identify as Black Americans today in the social media space, they tend to rely and trust the Black and African American community when it comes to content creativity, or at least in its communities of practice and space. You look at people like Kai Cenate. Now, let me just say, Kai Cenate recently was in his creative bag, and for whatever reason or purpose, Kai Cenate did something that was recently controversial. Kai Cenate went to, let's just say, I'm going to tell you what happened, then I'll give you a little bit of meat with the soup, okay? Kai Cenate went to prison, okay? And Kai Cenate had a sentence to go into prison. The lead up or the rollout for that was Kai Cenate would be facing, okay, Kai Cenate, let me give a little content about Kai Cenate for those that may know. In New York City, I believe it was Manhattan, Kai Cenate was doing a PS5 giveaway. The man shut the city down. The power of social media, the power of influence, and need I say, the power of one individual. I just asked in the last pod, who's going to be our next MLK? Who's going to be our next pop star, our king of pop? Who's going to be our next to have people doing things that really warrant odd behavior just to say, I want a part or I want to be in the atmosphere with this one? Well, in the social media space, Kai Cenate did a PS5 giveaway and shut down Manhattan. I mean, had folks going to and leaving work hot as fish grease. He has that level of influence, and I believe he was charged with public endangerment because of the fact that it caused a riot. Not a riot of violence, but a crowd control situation that was hazardous to public safety. I hope I'm phrasing that right, but I believe those were the gist of it. So Kai Cenate, I'm not saying this is the follow-up, but let's just say to strike while the iron is hot. Kai Cenate went to prison, and the lead up was other people that were in the social or the creative content space were gonna do time with him. The time was 7 days locked up. Kai Cenate is known for his communication directly with his chat. His chat is bananas. People from all over the world interact with his live streaming content. It could be something as long as 7 seconds or 7 hours. They're going to rock with Kai Cenate no matter what. With this being the case, there were cameras set up in the jail, okay? Now, let me just say this for the sake of understanding. It was a staged jail. It was cameras all around the jail. However, he did find himself in the confinement of this space, be it a studio, for 7 days. Cameras rolling nonstop. Now, let me pause here just so I can let you know some of the knee-jerk reactions that this caused in the community. And let's just hone into the barbershops. They felt the way. Some of your ex-cons who's turned their life around said that this was a mockery of life inside of the walls. Some said it was a mockery of inmates who are trying to do the best that they can. I'm not here to run defense for either one, but I can speak about Kai Cenate and what he brings to the table. One may be thinking, why are we back to imitating foolishness? Orange jumpsuits with African Americans, I don't want to see it. Why are we portraying an image, right? I was kind of fueled by the thought of. And I said, well, let me click on so I can get an understanding of what's going on here. So I tune in, and I'll have to say, my heat elevation went down to medium and impossibly cool. It was some parts hilarious. It was some parts entertaining. It was some parts magnetic. What am I saying? And I've led up with this, and hopefully it makes sense now. In a day of bad TV, the SAG-AFTRA strike, congratulations, we're back to business. But with shows being canceled, not being renewed, and reality TVs taking the tubes by storm, this gave you something where you can click on a TikTok, a Twitch, or even a YouTube and go, okay, this is some content without commercials. And you look and you see the comedic aspect of what they were doing here. Did anybody criticize Life with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence for portraying two inmates? I don't think so. Right? So there were two sides of the coin that actually got flipped, and there were different POVs for the intake of how this show was actually managed, ran, and streamed live. I mentioned Kai Cenate because he is actually a part, or he was a part of the DREAMcon 2023 led by these brothers. So, you know, when he brings numbers, he brings numbers, right? Just a little bit more about the Kai Cenate situation in prison. He actually had other social media influencers who were coming in to do time. So the narrative was, why are you here? What did you do? So they were making these false narratives about their time in. And from what I understand, NLE Chopper, and I hope I got that right, NLE Chopper was one of the most hilarious inmates that's a social influencer now. See, you got to understand, a lot of these guys are kind of dropping the mic, the pen to paper when it comes to hip hop, and are now turning to character-based roles in their lives and getting in front of cameras and now saying this is a better form of hustle than hip hop. Right. So we'll do a deep dive into that at a later time. But I wanted to mention Kai Cenate because right now he's kind of at the top of that hottest fish grease list for social media influencers when it comes to young Black America and when it comes to young Black influencers that are making coins, bags, and bank accounts, multiple bank accounts. But I did just recently want to say that. So I want to say just a little bit, OGs, slow down just a little bit, right? I think part of why hip hop is the way it is because we didn't do enough knowledge transfer. Grab some of our young youth by the hand. We didn't hug them. A lot of us didn't show ways, right? It can't be a team of one. It has to be a community of practice for all of us to share love and spread love with these brothers and let them know, hey, this is what's right. This is what worked. This is what didn't work. Some sort of intro and retrospective with these young cats instead of us just looking at them going, y'all whack. This is mumble rap, man. Y'all are garbage. Y'all ain't, you guys ain't, you guys are not putting the work in as we did. Well, technology moves a lot faster than what it did before. And again, I'm not here running bell for either side. I'm just giving you a vantage point. And I also, at the heDONizm podcast, love to disrupt thought. So let's not count out our youth, right? They're important to us. They're very valuable. They are next up. Immaturity doesn't last always. It doesn't last forever, and be patient and have an open mind to it, right? When you think about this DREAMcon, the Kai Cenate, and a lot of aspects of what we see today and the fast, rapid pace of entertainment, and also how it's in front of us, it's unavoidable, and at the same time, it's moving at rapid pace where the numbers and the metrics show that this is success points, that these are success stories. You got to understand, even in rap music, we had one-hit wonders, right, that disturbed the rap growth or the growth of rap music and hip hop. But could this be the style of creativity that's next, like hip hop? You remember they called it a fad and they said it wouldn't last, or they said it was crap. Remember that? Could this be that next wave that could be telling us? And I do not want to do a cliffhanger, but I think I'm going to leave this right on the edge. Could this be the next that cancels out hip hop? You know, that derivative thing that I do, right? What a beautiful thing that hip hop does when it comes to creating jobs, when it comes to building communities, when it comes to generating wealth and knowledge. But no need to be judge and jury to some of our next level thinkers, our youth. We don't need to go so hard on them as the court of public opinion. And speaking of public opinion, find yourself in your way out of cancel culture, judged by the court of public opinion. You guys know, as always, in my pods, I try to be careful, but just in case I drop something that's a little tight or a little uncomfortable, please don't hold me to it. You guys know what it is. I'm just here to pod. I hope you enjoyed today, but until we meet again, peace.